Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 27 of the Clever Dummies Podcast. I'm your host, Lockie. As always, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're listening to this in the morning, afternoon, or evening, we really appreciate it. We're recording it midweek on a Wednesday night, and we're ready to go. And Nick, how you going, big fella?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. It's good to be here on this beautiful Wednesday night. You know, it's tops of 2 degrees here in Sydney, so I can't complain about the weather. I'm all rugged up, so it's good to be here. Nothing else I would be doing, despite the fact that I can't do anything else anyway. So,
that's right, and for another week as well, apparently. So there you go, mate.
Well, that's right. Another week of lockdown, so maybe there's a few more episodes in there. We always get more sporadic around those lockdowns, so we know that our commitment is there.
That's a good point. At the end of the day, our original conspiracy theory was Zencastr and Zoom that released. They were in bed with Bill Gates and funded this whole thing. So there we go. But maybe we'll get to more of that later, mate. We've got a very special guest today, don't we?
Oh, 100%. So I'm going to introduce, there's so many things that can be said about Alex, but all I'm going to say, Alex and I have had many conversations about the existence of time. And those conversations always ended at 4:30 in the morning at a bar where everyone was just surrounding us and just waiting for us to shut the fuck up.
Just some epic sparring matches, eh?
Epic sparring matches. No, Alex, I've known Alex for about 5-6 years now. We met at work and I think we clicked really well. I know Alex says otherwise at times, but we know he does love me. And you've met Alex as well at my birthday. Alex is probably one of the smartest people I know on this planet Earth. So I feel like, this podcast is going to be rocking. Alex, hello.
Fuck you, Anik.
There you go.
There is no way I can live up to one of the smartest people I know. Thank you very, very much.
That's his technique in these sort of things. He just likes to long-wind it, and then he go, fuck, where do I go from here?
You can tell he's an older brother because he just oversells everyone around him so he looks good when they inevitably fail. Hi, Lockie. How are you, mate?
Yeah, excellent, brother. Great to chat to you, matey.
Happy to be on.
No, it's been a pleasure. Been looking forward to this one for quite a while.
I want to say I do mean it, right? I do mean it.
And I do know it warms my heart, and I love you dearly, but for God's sake, you need to stop.
All right. Yeah, he's not that smart. All right, let's go.
Can you say that in my dad's voice?
All right. So before we get started,
that kid's not that smart.
Much appreciated.
How are you going? How's life treating you?
Yeah, good at the moment. I've managed to avoid feeling any difference with this current lockdown in Sydney because I work from home and I'm like helping cast a TV series in the Northern Territory, and so nothing's changed.
See, for the little bit of a background, Alex works as a casting director. Is that right, Alex?
Casting associate.
Casting associate. Not quite the director yet. Right?
No. I'm the director's associate. One step above assistant.
Associate.
So are the casting couches, they a real part of the industry, or is that a subsection?
It's one of my favourite stories because I also freelance doing commercial casting as well. And there was one ad which, was a vignette-y thing that needed all sorts of different types of people, different, effectively, caricatures. And one of them was, a 19-year-old influencer. And so my casting the entire day is just a bunch of, very handsome 18, 19, 20-year-old female influencers who really wanted a few $1,000s for not a lot of work. So everything I said was hilarious. They thought it was great. Like it was, and I'm standing there just going, okay, I see now. I see why the invention of the casting couch exists, because unattractive dudes in their 50s in my position think that these young girls think they are very funny. And they go, they really like me. I didn't know I was so funny. So, yeah, that was hilarious. Came home and told my wife that story. She thought it was mildly amusing. Then told one of my good mates, Anik, that story. And he went, bro, you didn't tell your wife, did you? She's like, she knows no one's going to touch me. It's fine.
See, the thing is, when I hear this story, right, this is all I think about is like, why didn't I think of that? It's a great opportunity, right?
Look, a couple of years later, a few years of experience and a few more drinks, all of a sudden there's Weinstein. So, hey, we're baby steps, boys, baby steps. But no, that's actually an incredible, it's a good point. And I'm sure, like, if you guys have had to interview someone for a job as well, you could probably cut through it pretty much straight away, and even realize that times that you're nearly being caught up in it and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's what they're trying to do. And people that are actually good at interviews. It's pretty interesting how we all, particularly that influencer, like those type of people are going to be all about that life as well.
Yeah, their job is,
I'm sure actors are like that too.
Their job is to charm people or to lure people to either a product, a lifestyle, or anything like that. That's their default.
OnlyFans subscription.
Yeah, if that's your bang. But and idiots like in my position, they only believe that if they're idiots.
See, I think it's interesting. Exactly, right. See,
that's why he no longer works in the industry.
He's been banned.
That's how it ended.
We ran him out of town.
They cancelled him.
I think it's interesting because I think it works both ways. Like working, a while ago, I was working very much like kind of in that influencer realm as well, while working other things like doing photography with them and like helping them build their socials and whatnot. Coming from that point of view, I actually found a lot of them to be very dry and boring. And like at times I was like trying to look for something interesting to sell. Like, I'm saying like, what's your selling point? Like, why are you interesting? But a lot of them kind of just had this idea of like, well, I'm good looking, so, everything should come with it.
Yeah.
So I think that was like from the side of like coming from their side and trying to help them like sell themselves. I actually found it the other way around. I was just like, oh, you guys are quite boring. Here I was like, it's a perfect specimen of a human, but you're really not. So that was quite interesting as well. Like,
there's a lot of good-looking people out there as well, so you need to have a little bit more. And I mean, I guess there's some people. I know you did one photo shoot with a lady, and you realised that she was very good at taking photos at certain angles and using certain filters as well. So, like that sort of thing. The real life, the real world is intriguing sometimes.
That's exactly right. There's one influencer, right, who I kind of had the major crush on, and she's from the US, right? And she met her in Melbourne when she was in Melbourne, and we were like just working that event. And I met her, and she was like nervous, and she was like socially awkward, and like I just heard my glass shattering. I was like,
that like Instagram's not real, right?
I know, but it just
like
a little
it's
bit
important to me that you know that.
I do, I do know now.
Very good.
So
okay.
I finally
it's a best self version of you at all times. Just Just checking.
That's exactly it.
When the heart's involved, Nick, when the heart's involved, sometimes, you let your guard down, don't you?
That's exactly right.
We'll get to more advice on love from Anik a little bit later in the episode, I'm sure.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
My love advice goes a long way. Although, I'm in this podcast with two married people, so I don't know how much good or damage I could do.
Mate. You can't win them all.
It works really well on Terrence or all my single friends, so they listen
100%.
intensely.
Well, let's do maybe a little bit of background work for many of our loyal listeners. You can delve as far deep as you'd like to, but obviously you're in the director's assistant role currently at the moment. I know you've done some acting as well. As you said, you're really passionate about that, I'm sure. Has that always been your goals and ambition? Did you sort of get put along that road at a certain period in time? Like, what's your sort of journey you got to get here?
No, I started doing it when I was a kid. Like, I'm from a country family from in the Upper Hunter Valley, and I started dancing when I was about 4 years old. It's something my mum just put me into. I'm not sure why. It definitely wasn't my dad's choice, but I started doing that when I was about 4, and really, really enjoyed that. Did that for about 8 years, I think. And there was a local youth theatre in Maitland called Maitland Repertory Theatre, and my grandmother would take me and my older brother to those shows once a year when I was a kid. I joined that group when I was about 10 years old, and just always wanted to do it. Parents made me go to uni and made me pick another thing, and so I did that for a bit, packed it in, and moved to Sydney to be an actor.
Sensational. And obviously you guys cross path there.
Yeah,
what were your initial thoughts on Anik? I mean, let's be honest, they might have evolved, but what did you first think about the great man?
Anik was the kind of tech guy at the venue that my drama school was at. So, it's whatever your first impressions are of the guy who does the tech work at any business. That was my first impressions of Anik.
Yeah, especially an ethnic tech guy.
Yeah, yeah. He really didn't stray far from the stereotype on that one.
Hey, if you ever had an issue with your reports, I fixed them, didn't I?
Yeah, and he'd Uber you home as well. He's a great bloke.
That was a secret. But yeah, and when we were working there, he and I are both tech people, and mine was coming more from a theatre side, a creative side, I guess, of theatre and lighting and sound and whatnot, whereas Anik has gone from the other direction, going via computing and whatnot to end up in the creative side. So it was, kind of a meeting of the minds, as it were.
It was a lot of fun, and I think it was a lot of fun. See, Alex says that, but Alex was always super proficient at the tech side as well, really good at it. And we did a lot of fun stuff and broke a lot of things and fixed a lot of things, mostly fixed things. And it was never a dull moment because we were always fixing something, and that was the kind of the theme of our workplace,
because there was always something going wrong.
Exactly. My favorite to date episode, that I say episode because it was kind of like The Office, right? Working there, but a bit more depressing that time. My favorite to date episode was this one time our accountant got locked out of the bank account. And there was a little USB stick that you needed to actually log into it. And so that USB stick was broken or something like that, right? And he couldn't log into it. So I remember we were like, oh, yeah, let's all try to fix it. And Alex just goes to me, he goes, well, you fix it. I want to fucking get paid tomorrow. I'm like, that's fair. That's a good point. I want to get paid as well. So not only I'm trying to kind of fabricate whatever it's called, the password authenticating system for CBA at an acting school working in a creative industry. So I think that's to this date one of my favorite things. And of course I did it. So that was very funny as well.
I do not remember this in the slightest, but I'm glad you're happy.
The best part was no one asked the questions like, really, you just did that? And CBA should work on the security? No one questioned it?
Oh, that's my bank.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's a great bank, aren't they? Instant transfer, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it was good memories. And this one time, I remember there was a show to run, and I was running late or something like that, which was often the case. And I came in, and when I say often, I was practically every day, right?
Yeah.
It was a rare occasion when I was on time.
Yeah.
So I woke up to work, and Alex is running the show, and I was like, wait, hold on. You can do this? Why haven't we just talked about this? And he goes, this is exactly why we haven't talked about this. So it was pretty funny. It was a lot of fun. And then of course there was times where we just hung out and had awesome conversations as well. So a lot of good history there. And then another little story about.
Do I need to be here for this, or should I just?
No. I just want to
let it go.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this for sure.
That's beautiful, right? I just want to wrap up this little story, right? But this is kind of introduction all to Alex, right? So Alex was getting married, right? And I was late to his wedding.
Oh yeah.
And we rocked up as they were walking away from the aisle. I guess when you walk out. And the funniest thing was Alex just looked at me and then did the classic your neck is off. So that was pretty funny as well. So that kind of wraps up our friendship, I guess. Says a lot.
Yes, you think I'm really great, but you didn't turn up to my wedding. Cool.
No, actually, he turned up late. I reckon if he was a no-show with a good excuse, okay. But the fact that he got there, that's shocking. Yeah.
To be fair, him and Terence did fly in from Melbourne, I think, that morning, and then had to drive up to the Hunter Valley. So
yeah, it's their fault for flying in that morning. Yeah, no, so sticking to him. Well, there you go. Exactly right. It is what it is.
It
It
is.
is what it is. Now, so I'll continue on with the questions now, Alex. Right. So I know I did say we'll talk briefly about sports, right? And you're a big sport fan.
Yeah, I love
and
sports.
So are we on this podcast.
Shout out
right?
to the Two for None podcast by Patrick Cullen and Chris Barty.
Yes,
where I'm a guest host.
If anyone hasn't listened
Second
to it,
drop
please
there,
do check it
mate.
out.
2 for none.
Yes, 2 for none.
First over. Come on, boys.
Well,
Hold your bets.
Talking about cricket, I guess let's dig into it. Cricket. You played cricket when you were young, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yes, you're talking to me. Yes, I did. A little bit. I was not good, so I didn't get to play much of it. I coached my brother's cricket team for a bit as well. I've always been the guy who thinks he knows more about cricket than everybody else, and sometimes I do.
But you know what they say: the people who can't do it are teach it often. So
yeah, that's me. With
that's
99% of the things I do in my life.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, that's the spirit.
That's something I found with coaching cricket in particular, and I played for a lot longer than I coached, but I've after a couple of years, I felt so much more adequate as a coach than I did when I was playing. And there's obviously the pressure of the live situation and having to perform and, just trying to do what you're preaching about, I guess. But like obviously if they're younger, it's a different story. Even if you're not very good, if the kids are a lot younger than you, you're still better, and then you can kind of figure it out. But there was just something like, and I never was able to achieve at any real level of cricket. I just wasn't good enough. I played for ages and I loved it. Like I lived it so much, and I practiced all the time. Like it wasn't for lack of trying. I was just so shit. but I've spent fucking 2/3 of my life playing it. So it was like when I finally came to that realization, maybe it was the best day of my life. But for coaching, I clicked to straight away, and like I started coaching when I was 13, 14, and I just found I liked it a lot more, and like the pressure was still there to perform, but I felt like the things that I liked in coaches growing up were what I wanted to bring in, and I wanted to build relationships with kids and not just be, because I wasn't a parent at the time. I felt like some coaches are just like extra parents and like they're bossing other kids around. Like I liked that relationship with the younger kids, and I was kind of like an older brother because I was only maybe 4 or 5 years older than the kids I was coaching. So that was probably part of it. But like and then it does actually make you a better player. Like I coach kickboxing now, and it does make you better at the art form because you have to analyze it, and to be able to teach something is definitely a different thing. Like when people say if you can't do something, you teach it, it's not overly true either. Like there's a lot of really talented people who aren't meant to be coaches because they don't have the ability to articulate it as well.
People like Anik who can't form interpersonal relationship. Because like I taught kids drama since I was like 16 as well. Yeah.
Kids drama. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've been teaching since I was about 16. Kids drama, and I do a little bit of dance as well, a little bit of guitar. And then, coaching cricket is, I always find teaching something makes you better at the thing you're teaching. As you were just saying, that it makes you a better player when you become a coach. But sometimes that's a little bit too late.
Yeah, exactly right. Too far gone. Even your understanding of what it's all about. Like you definitely can conceptualize things, and that's why there are, like nowadays particularly, pretty much every sport, 90% of the people in the media were ex-players, and I think I understand why they're doing that. But you still get your really smart media members who don't overstep their boundaries and have a really good understanding of the game, who haven't played at such a high level. Like it definitely happens.
Massive rugby league fan and a massive cricket fan, and 80% of Parramatta Eels for the league.
Oh, what? No way! I didn't realize that, bro. Go the Eels, King. What about Mitchell Moses, mate?
I'm so happy for the bloke. So happy for the bloke. Hopefully, it's one of those things where you get them into Origin camp and they come out and they just go to a whole other level.
Yeah, look what it's done to Cleary, you know what I mean? Like, sure, he had half the side with him, but even a few years ago, and Moses I feel like his play has matured, his ability to, we're kind of shifting topics here, but his ability
real fast.
We'll bring it back to coaching, but his ability to control his forwards and to kick when needed to kick. And one of, I think it was Luluwai, is that the 5'8" for Penrith?
Yeah,
one thing he said about Moses is like, as a runner, he's really fast and strong. I'm like, oh, you wouldn't actually pick that up. Like, he's a good runner, but he said, like, he's a fast and strong runner on top of his, halfback ball playing ability. he maybe needs to take an extra second when he's kicking penalty goals. But apart from that, like
That was
I'm still
brutal.
pretty. Yeah, bro. I was at the pub there. I was good. My dry July lasted 2 days. I was off to the races there.
I was just sitting at home watching it on my laptop while I was doing other things, and when Matt Burton kicked that field goal, I turned it off, so I missed the penalty goal.
Right. Wow.
So this entire range of heartbreak that all you guys went on, I was just like, then I checked the score, 10 minutes later, like 13-12, that makes sense, and then I'm just getting all this stuff going, how did he miss that? I'm like, how did he miss what?
Yeah. It was crazy. It was they went for a short kickoff. They ran, and this is one element of the game that I like that's crept in is they want to protect the people going for the ball, but basically, Anik, like as a opposing player, so if the other team's kicking to you and you're one of your players is trying to catch the ball, you're allowed to run in front of your player to stop the team from coming in as long as you don't run after another player and try to knock him away. You can kind of just like shield him without doing it. Yeah. So basically a Penrith player ran off his line, penalty goal, 30 metres out, maybe 15 in from touch. He rushed it. He just sort of didn't, he has like this mental thing he does where he kind of talks to himself and I don't know what he does.
His little sways of the arms about
he didn't do it. He just went in and he struck it well. He just pulled it. I'm like, he's fucking rushed that. But I'm still glad he got the role anyway. Like he deserved it. He's been playing so well. So yeah, and he's at the right age, 26. Like that's when you want to get him in there and fucking it's a good time to start, I guess. 2-0
he'll
up.
always be behind Queensland. Cleary in terms of
it is what it is
because Cleary's 24 or something.
Yeah, and he's just phenomenal.
Best backup halfback I think in the comp. So
that's right. And Moses started out as a 5'8", so you never know. Maybe one day they can bring him back. But I feel like they want to keep the Penrith partnership, which is fair enough. So.
It'll be a bit hard to replicate Lockyer Thurston and Thurston Cronk. Like that's a very special pairing of a couple of halves.
Yeah. The amazing thing about those guys too is they could be playing like absolute dog shit for their their regular teams. Broncos have lost 8 straight. They bring him in and he's fucking man of the match.
Yep.
The amount of years of heartbreak as a New South Wales fan, still trauma that I'm getting over to this day.
It's just year after year after year. Like it started when I was 15 and it didn't end till I was 24. It was come on.
And like you would buy in every year. Like you would get gullible, you would drop your guard down and then fucking bang, they jag you again.
Yep.
So.
Good
anyway,
Good times.
That's it. It is what it is.
My therapist is going to get a lot of cash out of that.
And the restrictions will still be on, so it's going to be interesting where they have the game because they were wanting to put it in Newcastle because game 3 in Eek was meant to be next Wednesday, so the 14th was meant to be at ANZ Stadium. Obviously they can't have it now because of restrictions. They were talking about bringing it up to Newcastle. They could fit 20,000 people in. I don't know, they might just take it back down to Melbourne.
I think they announced it today that it's definitely going to Newey.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Just not a big crowd?
Yeah, well, I think it's about a 22,000 capacity. It'll be about 13,000. They'll try
that's still solid. Yeah, the boys will be rocking.
Would it be still during the lockdown?
Rocking.
Well, Newcastle's not in lockdown.
So they're not Greater Sydney?
No. Greater Sydney, Central Coast, Blue Mountains and Wollongong, they're under lockdown, and the rest is just, social distancing.
Yeah. Yeah, we still have to mask up and that sort of thing, but everything's kind of open.
So I think the crowd will be full of masks.
Yeah, that's right. And rednecks, obviously, but that's good.
Represent.
Yeah, that's it, baby. That's it.
It's I didn't know that. I thought it was all of New South Wales that was in lockdown. Wow, I'm really
you're very Sydney centric.
I am.
And that is a big character flaw of yours.
It goes back to the interpersonal relation,
and that's saying something because I've only just moved back to Sydney. It's really hitting me the Sydney cider.
You could take the boy out of Sydney.
Not the Sydney, that's right. Especially Western Sydney, the heartland. But regional where we got masks, businesses are restricted, but nothing's really closed down. This is actually the first time since the start of COVID up here in Coffs Harbour that we've had to wear masks. Even when it started last year in March and April, there was no mask mandate.
Yeah, right.
Pretty crazy, right? So, it's weird. Like, this is actually our first.
It's because no one wants to go there. But...
Yeah. Well, what they do is they cut off travel and like 60% of our population at times can be brought in with tourism. So they would just stop people coming up for the school holidays. And they're like, we've only had like 2 or 3 cases in the entire mid-North Coast region, which goes from like Port Macquarie to Ballina. So like we've been pretty good the whole time. So it was just, but like a lot of businesses rely very heavily on tourism, like shops, like obviously like food, particularly around Coffs Harbour Jetty where the water is, like all those businesses are either like really struggling at the moment or like, school holidays is a massive part of their business, like
and lockdown started right as the holidays did.
Yeah, for the third time or whatever it was. So yeah, it's
almost
unfortunate.
It's almost like they time it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
almost like the time.
it's almost like, I know, but then you've got to go down the rabbit hole. Then you've got to pick up the scraps, and who really gives a fuck? It is what it is. It's all going to happen whether we like it or not. So,
well, that's exactly right.
Actually, so, and you might be able to speak to this as a guy who's had experience in the legal industry. I was bro-sciencing my way through a legal document today, and I was reading through something called it was like patient. It has to do with medical, so it's like doctor-patient relationship, and like any medical procedure is all voluntary. So it's like against our constitution for any medical procedure to be forced upon a person. Any medical procedure you can get has to be voluntary. Like you're not forced to get anything. So would that restrict them from making vaccinations mandatory?
I'm not sure that it's against our constitution for a start. Just because we have in Australia very few explicit rights within the constitution, and there's been a few things which are called implied rights that the High Court started kind of gleaning from the Constitution in the late 80s and the early 90s, but they're very legally ones. They're not really in terms of like the Bill of Rights in America and that kind of thing. We don't really have anything other than, I think, freedom of movement and freedom of religion, a right to trial by jury, and that's kind of it.
The regular standard ones, yeah.
Yeah, very, very few things. So in terms of what our government actually can do in terms of forcing vaccinations, I haven't been at university studying law for about a decade, nearly. So, this isn't legally binding. But I'm pretty sure they can almost do not what they want, but there is room for them to be able to make restrictions like no jab, no pay, that kind of thing. Because that's what Tony Abbott actually tried to start doing.
That's right.
For vaccinating your children.
Yep.
Everyone's got at least one good idea.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, that's what's happened in multiple states in the US. Like, they still have restrictions in place unless you're vaccinated. So it kind of makes. I feel like that's what might happen. There's talks now about, like, I guess, third party or government agencies going to people's employment places and vaccinating people there. So that would obviously speed up the process and get allowed to get it done quickly. So I could definitely see a day where I get an email from my work at the moment saying, like, if you don't get it, don't come back. I don't think so, but like I'm kind of mentally preparing for it a little bit because I don't really know. Like, it's kind of hard to know.
Yeah, it's a lot of speculation, but
that's right, and that's the thing. Like,
it would help if we had some vaccines to kind of
that's the thing. Like,
get them to people.
All this fucking shit about get this, get that. This fucking nothing's available unless you're 65 years old and you've got one leg. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, except for those 200 kids at Sydney Boys High or whatever the hell it was. A couple of days ago, all of Pfizer. It's like, what? Pfizer's the good one. And they were meant to give it to the Indigenous kids too. And the New South Wales helped bugging it up and gave it. Oh, so ridiculous. Anyway,
and the interesting thing is, and this is what I always find interesting when the conversation flips, is for almost a while the government has been saying, "Hey, everyone needs to get vaccinated. Everyone needs to get vaccinated," and it's been like the thing that you need to do and you must do. And then all of a sudden, there is no vaccine. Then no one can get vaccinated. Like, for my workplace at the moment, like, everyone is trying to get vaccinated because we need to travel like fair bit in coming months. And so we all need to get vaccinated, and just none of us actually can manage to get vaccinated.
It's like waiting lists and all these sort of things.
So it's pretty interesting. And then the other side of it, and they said, well, if you're vaccinated, and they started this conversation as well, that if you're vaccinated, then obviously, you might be able to skip out on certain quarantine and whatnot. So, but that hasn't been the case. That hasn't been the case either. Like, someone who was vaccinated, tested negative from Sydney, went to Melbourne, and they still had to quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah, but the most recent thing is, of course, it's the Delta variant, which is
Yeah.
much more infectious. We don't know how the vaccine was never designed to combat this particular strain. They're allowed to change their minds, Anik.
It's just they change it so often, and I find it really interesting.
The thing that gets me about that is then the authoritativeness of when they change their minds. There's no dialogue that they've changed their minds. It's just a continued push. And I understand you've got to lead people like that, particularly people that are hanging off every word. But it just feels like a disingenuous nature of it compared to just there's a lot of sociopaths in politics. Who would have figured? So there you go. You can't win them all.
It's what happens when you get liberal governments. I'm going to say it. I'm going to even say it like friendly Geordies. The liberal government.
Fucking Alan Jones.
That's fair. I see that. I mean, overall, and I did say we were going to talk about politics. I knew there was a natural segue into politics. I knew it.
The weird thing of the term liberal as well is like in the US, like it's the complete opposite. Like I don't know how the fuck we stumbled upon that word is right side.
The term liberal, like it means what it is, and it was Robert Menzies, who I'm pretty sure started the party. I think he was an offshoot from the Country Party.
Late 60s,
late 40s.
Really?
He was Prime Minister, I'm pretty sure, at the beginning of World War II. And then we changed to a Labour government in about 41. Okay. But then he got it back a little bit later and was the longest serving Prime Minister, blah, 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 blah. But back then, liberal meant individual rights and freedoms. Yeah. Whereas they were standing opposite Labour, which is workers' rights, which is collective rights and that kind of thing. And then, it's just progressed now. Because in the UK, you've got the Liberal Democrats Party, and they are, centre-left. Was it Malcolm Fraser, the Prime Minister that got Gough Whitlam ousted, handed in his resignation to the Liberal Party in the early 90s and said, it's not a Liberal Party anymore, it's a Conservative Party, so I'm out.
Wow.
And that guy was a dick, and he still quit the party. So it just kind of, where's the party now under this guise of liberalism?
Yeah, and that certainly progressed. Obviously, we had John Howard, and he was pretty traditionally conservative right. And then we had a fair shift left. Same with Abbott. In certain areas, he's even more right. I still feel like he was, he was similar to what we had with John Howard. And then now it's kind of hard sometimes to get a read on Scott Morrison. Like, I guess so many things have been going on in the country. Like he's had to change shape and evolve, and he's like a chameleon at times. Like you kind of don't get a read off him.
The thing a lot with Scummo, you can't tell my bias just from that. He's professionally a marketing dude. He wasn't a lawyer or a rich business owner or career politician or anything like that.
I just quickly want to say, for all the marketers out there, I'm offended for you guys. So
I'm not saying marketing people are bad.
No.
I'm saying marketing people are bad prime ministers.
Well, I'm just saying that I'm offended that he's a marketer and a prime minister. So,
they probably love him. But yeah, like his skill is spin and slight twists and rephrasings and reframings of things, and that's how he's progressed through politics, how he's progressed through marketing, and now as a prime minister, when we've had catastrophic natural disaster after catastrophic natural disaster, you can't spin that. You can't reframe a global pandemic and some of the worst bushfires we've ever seen. You can't rephrase that. You can't kind of slightly hoodwink people with a pretty image of Bondi Beach. So, he's struggling. And that's why our messaging across the pandemic is all screwed up. It's why nothing's consistent. He takes none of the blame, but every good idea is his.
And the division within state level as well, like it's so obvious that they really want to make an attempt to get rid of him now. But like, I don't feel like I feel like this is the wrong time to be. I guess you could say that maybe you have to take that approach because of what he's been doing as Prime Minister, but it's definitely the wrong time to be building up more division and kind of infighting in that regard instead of.
But maybe, and this is just a thought, maybe that division is happening because of his weakness as a leader, of
No,
central
it's
government.
always been there.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll blame him for a lot of stuff, but I can't blame him for that.
I still
that's
think,
right. Eh? It's just
I still think Daniel Andrews is the strongest leader in
There's
the
less things to focus on at the moment. Like, it's at the forefront, so there you go. Yeah.
Just waiting for them to give make Daniel Andrews the prime minister, because why not?
Uncle Dan or Dan Murphy.
He carried that state on his back, and then he broke it.
And he broke it,
That he stood on the bastard.
Oh.
That's a fucking great call.
So a little bit of a bit. I'm going to pick
It's
up
like
the
when
speed
old Roy Asatasi fucking tore his ACL because he tripped over his 2-year-old daughter. He was just about to play for Australia. It's like, you poor prick. He went through the hard yards. And then remember that? Fuck,
I do.
Anyway, sorry, continue, big fella.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna change up the pace of the podcast and like kind of take it back, because I feel like we've been asking this question to almost everyone as well.
And I will know what this question is, because I've been listening to all of your podcasts.
Yes, that's exactly right. So thanks for listening. We needed those extra 2 listens.
Bloody oath.
Really push us across the edge. So
probably listen to more episodes than I have. I think I've gotten halfway through about 3, but that's just because I fucking will scream at the way I speak. So it's not.
Yeah, really you hear the sound of your own voice, and you just go, "No, I'm out." No.
Just the mistakes. You're like, oh, what do you do? It's like, okay, yeah, it just causes me more. And the couple I have listened to, I freaking loved, but I just got to get through that initial part. You know what I mean? Anyway, it is what it is, baby. What's your thoughts on listening?
That's okay. Well, just quickly, I've actually listened back to some of the old ones, and I just like, what the hell were we doing? Like, fix your microphone, you dickhead. So it's very funny. Anyway, so my question was, let's take back, almost a year now, I guess, when the whole coronavirus, when it first started. Where were you at? How's your life was like?
Oh, my life
was
was
your mental state at?
What, before it started or after?
No, when it started. So during the whole,
me and my wife had just got back from our 3-month honeymoon. So we, I think we were in Cairns in the middle of February, and then kind of got back late Feb. She went straight onto a job. She works in makeup and prosthetics for film and TV. So she went straight to a job. I spent 2 weeks looking for an apartment, for a house to move into in Sydney. We found one, got approved in about 2 days. All my mates helped us move in that weekend. Lockdown hit about 3 days later. So kind of just timed everything pre-coronavirus perfectly. So yeah, we were great. We just come back from a big honeymoon. She is working, she's just kicking goal after goal after goal in her career, and I'm sitting around the house playing PlayStation for about 3 months. It was awesome.
That's
a
very different messaging I've heard all the way through.
Every single one of my mates that I'm like, especially because I was in a pretty good frame of mind, I'm checking in on my mates fairly regularly, and they're all having a fairly rough time, whether you're in share houses or blah blah, away from family, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of living with my new wife that I've been with for over a decade, and this is pretty good. And I got a lot of don't talk to me for a bit because your joy is giving me the shits.
Did you have a healthy nest egg there that you saved up? Was that?
Oh God, no! We spent it all on the honeymoon.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
Yeah, but she's working in, so she was earning well. We were fine.
Good. Yeah, I get you. So she was still working?
Yeah, she was on pretty much the only film that was still filming in Australia across kind of March, April, May. A remake of Children of the Corn that they were doing. That was filming out Richmond way in outer Sydney. And yeah, they just locked down. They put all cast and crew were, had to stay at their hotel, So away from her.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so we were fine.
Sounds like a dream. I love that. That's brilliant. And see,
having a wife.
Yes, there you go. See, this is the loud and clear message I'm hearing. Yeah. You know what's weird? I feel like this is now the new theme of the podcast. When we spoke to Haley, and she was just going on about how happy she is being married and how many goals she was kicking during COVID-19.
Oh, mate.
So, I feel like I now need to get married because that seems to be the answer.
Yeah, that's not the first step. There's a few steps before that, but get your dad to tell you.
Oh, damn it. What's the steps?
I'm not your dad.
Okay, damn it.
Yeah, and your dad married a younger woman, didn't he too, mate? So they maybe just wait a few more years.
just a few more years, But I want my life to get easier now. So
That just reminds me of, it's probably one of my favorite SNL sketches of all time. It's Tina Fey and Amy Poehler hosting a game show called Meet Your Second Wife. And it's three men in their,
That's funny.
mid 40s, early 50s. And they introduce the first guest. This is your second wife, and she's 18 years old. She's a co-ed at this university. Da 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 da. And they're like, oh, she's 18. That's the same age as my daughter. Maybe they can be friends. And they're like, yeah, your daughter's gonna love her. All right, Gary, meet your second wife, and it's a 10-year-old girl who walks out and they're like, ooh, I don't feel comfortable with this. And they go, yes, when she's in 12 years' time, when she is 22, she's going to be your secretary, etc., etc., etc. And then the third one, which made America just lose its mind, was I think it was Cecily Strong playing the woman who walks out, and she's in her early 30s, and the guy goes, "Oh, this is my second wife? Yeah, this isn't too bad." They're like, "Yes, Janine is pregnant with your second wife." It's like, ooh.
I love that.
Your second wife isn't born yet.
Fucking hell.
That's brilliant.
That's yeah. That's up. That's some South Park level of shit there.
Oh
boys.
yeah.
Talking about South Park, you know what episode just clicked in my head? The Human Centipede episode. Does anyone remember how good was that
I
episode?
remember getting absolutely scarred by that at your house. I hadn't seen the centipede before that moment, so I investigated
the
after
film
that.
Or the South Park episode?
I'd heard what it was about. Like, I think I'd recently seen Two Girls, One Cup, so I had a fellow understanding of what Human Centipede was, but I never watched it.
Oh, the memory.
And then I saw Centipede. I'm like, man, if this animated joke is hitting me this bad, like I couldn't sleep for about 2 days. The Human Centipede was a terrible idea.
Did you watch the Human Centipede, Alex?
Yes, yeah. It's one of those films that you have to watch it with friends because it's weirder if you watch it alone.
Yeah, that's most definitely. Yeah,
I'm just going to say nothing about that because I watched it alone.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Goes back to an earlier point made, I think.
What a interesting film. Like whenever the writer was writing this film, he's like, you know what'd be great? If I make a completely different film, and what'd be so unusual? If I stick one dude to another girl. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then give them laxatives.
That's horror writing though. It's like, what's one fucked up idea? Cool, got it, let's make a film.
Imagine your casting agent coming up to you. All right, we've got this great gig for you.
We want you to play the middle part of a Human Centipede. Of
Human Centipede 2. Like, you've seen the first one, and then you still say yes. Imagine how badly you needed
Where
to
is my career? Well, nowhere, but
Yeah, well, that's right. What was
if they're making a Human Centipede sequel, I am available.
There you go. It was like, it wasn't Russia, but it was somewhere like, it was in that part of Europe, right? Like, it was like you'd have to be pretty fucked up by the cold weather to make something like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, or something like a Serbian film or something like
Serbia.
that.
Yeah, those are next level, those guys.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
They make some interesting films.
When I was 16, I would have watched the shit out of those films. Now I'm a little bit older. No, I'm good.
It's weird, eh? Like, your consciousness is too strong, and you're like, oh wow, yeah. As a kid, I've frothed it. Like, I even most horror movies don't do anything for me. I find them stupid, but something like The Conjuring, like, I feel like it's a really well made movie.
Yeah,
and even to that day, if I put The Conjuring on, like, I'll be I'll be turning it off.
I'm still a big fan of horror films, but those, just gross out.
I've seen too many bad ones. I feel like I've seen too many bad ones.
Yeah, I enjoy a schlocky one, but the intentionally gross out, which is no real plot. It's just based a one idea horror film to gross you out.
Yeah,
I grew out of that phase. I didn't grow out of my metal phase, but I grew out of that phase.
What's your thoughts on Wolf Creek?
I adore Wolf Creek.
It's amazing.
Easily one of my favorite films.
What about in the second one where they doubled down on his character? I didn't mind it. Because that was my favorite part. But I feel like the first one was just like, the second one was good, but you can tell like the first one was just more raw. It was just like it looked like
I feel about the second film.
It was like an anti-hero a little bit in that second one. It was weird. Like you almost were cheering for him because he loved him.
The TV series is the thing that made the first one so good. And it's similar to kind of the quality of like my favorite film of all time, Silence of the Lambs. And even though that's the second book in a trilogy, Anthony Hopkins' version of Hannibal Lecter is the first one that he did, even though it's the middle story. And what makes that much more impressive of a film rather than Hannibal or Red Dragon is you don't know anything about him. Same as the first Wolf Creek film. There's no rhyme, there's no reason. There is just this character, this really well-made character doing pretty heinous things. And the lack of justification, morality, explaining his history to try and explain who he is now, removing that makes it a much better film, a much more interesting film. Then as soon as you start dipping into that backstory, and like same with Hannibal, you get the Hannibal Rising origin story.
The Netflix show, wasn't there one as well? It's just too much, eh?
It's not necessary. It takes away the intrigue. It takes away the interest of what's a really, really cool character. It's kind of how people feel about the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah. But there's just so much money on the line, right? Like you've got even to butcher, it's just like why those Fast and the Furious 28's coming out next week. Like, it's just until that well dries up, you might as well keep digging into it. You know what I mean? Like
money machines.
Look at Dwayne Johnson. I mean, and to The Rock's credit, like he definitely has developed into a pretty good actor, but he still plays the one role. It's just I am looking forward to Black Adam to see if he can sort of provide something different. He has played some really good characters, and to his credit, I actually, even though they're not my favorite movies of all time, I haven't watched the Rock movie and gone like not enjoyed it. They are all like solid. Like I can sit through it. I'm not bored. Like they're all decent movies.
Have you seen The Tooth Fairy?
No, I haven't. I've deliberately stayed away from that one.
No. I quite enjoyed
the one where he was
young.
he was a football player and he was the dad of the young girl. It was around the same time. That was really good. I didn't watch Tooth Fairy. I feel like there was like those two options, and then thankfully it was like Game Plan or something. Like that one was solid.
Yeah, Tooth Fairy is terrible, and you were the target audience.
I watched it because it was so cute.
You would have been like 8 years old when that film came out.
That's exactly when I watched it, and I was like, "This is the greatest thing ever." But
I think it came out when we were like nearly in high school, bro.
No, before that, a little.
You reckon?
Maybe. Just nearly high school. Yeah, you're right. I'll tell you what. One of my favorite films is of all time: Transporter.
Are you talking about the Ewan McGregor film about drugs, or the Jason Statham film about
you were
guns?
15, and Nick, you were 15 when the Tooth Fairy came out, mate. This is getting worse.
Had to do some calculations there. I just took Alex's words for it. I'm like, okay, that's sad.
Oh,
wow.
You roasted yourself. That was so easy.
Trainspotting. Trainspotting. One of my favorite films of all time.
That's a brilliant film.
Just so well made. I think it's just like when I speak about like when I say favorite films, as in like narrative wise, the way it's made, I think storyline, it's just so brilliant. I mean, other films are more entertaining. I probably wouldn't watch it as often as I'd watch. I wouldn't watch Trainspotting as often as I'd watch other entertaining films, but still all time one of the best films I've ever seen. I think Trainspotting.
Just a question: does this podcast have like a through line, or are we just running until we run out of breath?
We run till an hour.
When the wall
normally
presents itself, you'll know. Yeah, I believe. Look, we nearly hit the wall in about 10 minutes, so we'll love it until we want to live it. Did you have any more topics there, Nick? I was going to look up another one. Obviously, Daniel Craig, who's the current James Bond. There's this World War II set movie that he was in. Came out in 2008. It's called. Let me just abruptly put the flow of this podcast to. Yeah, it's called Defiance. So he is in Belarus during the occupation of Nazi Germany, and he kind of plays like a freedom fighter. It's called Defiance. It came out in 2008, and this is before he was James Bond, or maybe just when he got the role. That's a fucking amazing film, eh? And like not a lot happens, but it's the those are sometimes the best movies when they don't just give you the sex straight away. Like they make you crave it, and then you get a bit of it, and then it goes back. Like it's just so well done.
And I'm all for a
stuff.
war film or a Cold War era film set in East Germany. Like, ooh, give it to me.
Yeah, I live for it. Yeah. When I was a young fella, I reckon for my early high school years, I went for a couple of years where that was everything. It was right around the time when I started playing the video games, like particularly the single player video games. Like the multiplayer just changed it into something. When it was just like a single player campaign, when you'd go through like my history, almost the entirety of my knowledge of both world wars and the Vietnam War came through.
Medal of Honor and Call of Duty.
Medal of Honor and Call of Duty, yeah. And there's another one, the big red one of the early ones. It's so good, so it is what it is.
No, war history has always been something me and my dad both have always been in. So, Christmas every year, he's easy to buy for. Is there a new book about Australia in a world war? Get it.
Yeah.
So, and so all those films, like the 90s and the 2000s, Platoon, We Were Soldiers, Saving Private Ryan, Behind Enemy Lines. Is that the one, or is that the Will Smith one, which is awful?
Have you watched 1917?
No, I haven't.
That's one. When I think about one of my favorite movies of all time, and like it's hard for me to go. Like it's a different sort of movie. It's hard for me to go past Shawshank Redemption. I would be willing to put 1917 into top 5. It is so freaking well done. Definitely recommend. Maybe that can be a homework assignment.
Band of Brothers, which is
the series
that Tom Hanks and Spielberg produced after they made Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
that is phenomenal,
exceptional. That was just before, before Netflix and that really took off. So we hadn't had a lot of like series that were like a movie expanded. That was almost like I remember it being, and Channel 7 had it like prime time, like it was massive. That was so freaking good. So good. Like it took you into the lives of the soldiers and just amazing. Yeah. It's almost rewatchable worthy, actually, to be perfect.
Literally, it was at my parents' place about 2 months ago and saw the box set sitting there and went, I'm taking this. I'm going to rewatch it. So I'm halfway through rewatching it now.
Brilliant. Yeah. I'm going to start watching Yellowstone. I've heard that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've watched. Have you
guys watched
Yellowstone? So it's set in Middle America. It's kind of like a country setting, but it's modern, and they own farms and they're just involved in all sorts of absolute chaos. But you fall in love with a couple of characters, and I think it's about 3 seasons, and a few people, like a few podcasts I listen to, and my mother-in-law absolutely rave and carries on about it. New season's about to come out, so it's just meant to be exceptionally well done. But I don't know any of the plot line. I just know it's called. I know the concept of it, but I don't know any of the plot line. But I've just heard everyone keeps telling me
people live on farms, and you'll love it. That's what I've gathered.
It's so hard for me to get into shows because I know how invested I get. But like I watched Ozark for sure, waiting for that one. Animal Kingdom's one, so I think I might start watching. I've been a few months now. I actually went back and rewatched the Marvel series
Punisher. Yeah,
that is legitimately one of my favorite things ever to exist.
Yeah, so. I got halfway through to the end of nearly all of those. I haven't watched the second season of The Punisher. Haven't watched the last Daredevil.
Yeah,
they're the last.
By the end of it, like by Jessica Jones season 2 and Luke Cage season 2, you want to knife yourself in the face. Especially that first season of Jessica Jones was legitimately amazing. The second season might be the worst TV series, most disappointing TV series ever made.
Iron Fist was shockingly bad.
It was
unpopular opinion.
2 episodes. So the first 2 episodes were good, but
we're
it
not
just
listening
was
to you,
like
Nick.
pass. And do you know the Defenders? Like, how badly can you fuck up a great concept?
Yeah.
Like, that was so effing boring.
And that was set that up so well. It's just the guy that plays the Iron Fist. Like, I love David Wenham, but even he couldn't save the first season. I don't love the villains they were fighting too. The kind of the mystical Asian characters. I feel like they could have been done a lot better. They were just very shit and boring. Yeah, the Hand is a tricky group to try and represent properly.
Hand,
Just chuck in the old Ra's al Ghul. That's it.
That's
how
Batman,
you
dickhead.
But it's in. No, but isn't there the
how
equivalent
good is
of
that
the Ra's
Aussie
al Ghul?
actor? How he was in Underbelly, one of the older Underbellies. That dude is so legit. He played it in the recent. Was it in like Arrow and that?
Oh yeah.
He was legit. Yeah,
what was
fucking DC, bro? You're funny.
No. There's the Ra's al Ghul equivalent in Marvel. What's his name? He's exactly
What do you
exactly
mean?
the same.
I was like,
Google that.
an
have
immortal mentor to one of the characters. Like, what are you going
Do you
with?
have a home
Yeah.
Google in your room, Anik? Just ask Google.
Alexa,
is there
look up the Ra's al Ghul equivalent in Marvel.
Hello, sociopath. What are you talking about?
You've had too many beers to drink tonight. Go to sleep.
Shit.
I thought Iron Fist had some power to be good, but then they ruined it. So,
Like Iron Fist
totally.
does. The show doesn't.
that's true.
It
The show-
cannot
that's-
be good.
I like.
it was so bad. So
Even
bad.
the love story they had, it just was so slow, and he was losing every fight for the first 6 episodes. Like,
Yeah. And
Daredevil was so effing good.
I adore that character. I adore the
Yeah.
Iron Fist. I think
Yeah.
he's really, really cool. And also Iron Fist's relationship with Luke Cage and Iron Fist's relationship with Daredevil in the comics is
Totally.
phenomenal. The Defenders, the group of these New York superheroes, is awesome. And it was just the most dull, boring, and it's just that one dude who plays the Iron Fist. He's in Game of Thrones as well, and all he says is, "I'm the immortal Iron Fist." It's like, I don't care. Fuck off.
Yeah, it provides something more. He had a look about him, like he had the look, and he just didn't have much. Chops,
Your lawyer is Trinity from the Matrix. Step back.
How good was Daredevil, the show?
Yeah, that's exceptional.
Especially the first 2 seasons. First 2 seasons were really good, and I think the character who played
third season was made after they shit the bed with Defenders. So I think it was already beating a dead horse.
And Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin is just perfect casting.
Exceptional, right?
So brilliant.
And Daredevil kind of existed inside of it, like certainly Daredevil season 2. Sorry, The Punisher. Daredevil season 2, The Punisher was in there, but the Punisher series, both seasons, kind of existed outside of the world for the most part for obvious reasons. But
my understanding is that the Punisher series was just a happy accident for them.
Yeah,
is that they brought the Punisher in and people lost their minds for the first decent portrayal of the Punisher on film.
Yeah,
and they
that's
went,
right.
All right,
have you seen some of the old ones?
Yeah, the Thomas Jane one with John Travolta.
Yeah,
and bloody what's his name? Kevin
Ben
Nash.
Affleck.
Ben Affleck's Daredevil. Yeah,
Daredevil. My bad.
I've watched them all, Matt. I've watched
Terrible.
them all.
Ben Affleck Daredevil.
I had
Kevin
such
Nash,
a crush on Jennifer Garner when I was
Yeah.
a teenager, though, so I really liked that film for a while.
John Bernthal was exceptional. I haven't seen a bad movie with him either. He's so good. He was in early Walking Dead as well.
Yeah,
he played
he was in the
Shane,
Hurt
I
Locker
think.
too, wasn't he?
Yeah, Hurt Locker. That's another good one. That one came out around the same time as
The Tooth Fairy. Anik was a big fan.
No, what's the Blue People? The movie we call the Blue People.
Avatar.
Avatar. Yeah, there you go. I haven't seen Avatar. Maybe I should.
Or the Smurfs film.
Yeah, the Smurf. Yeah,
with Neil Patrick
Which
Harris.
one you have to?
yeah,
Neil
that's right.
Patrick Harris.
Yeah, so that actually came out
one of the
around the
greatest
same
actors
time.
of all time.
Hurt Locker got overshadowed. That's a good war movie to go back to.
It is.
Who is?
Neil
Who's a
Patrick
great
Harris.
actor? Okay.
Neil Patrick Harris.
I thought you
think
said
he's
Neil
brilliant.
deGrasse Tyson.
I was so hurt. He's just a great actor. Overall, I watched him in How I Met Your Mother, and then I found out he was gay. I'm like, but it doesn't make sense.
And once you know, you can't
Nick,
unsee it.
It's called acting.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. Very good acting.
For a marketing guy, he is awfully gullible, isn't he?
That woman on Instagram wasn't like what I thought she would be, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is gay, even though that's good for me. I just don't like it.
I don't understand.
The best market is the one that believes what they're selling, right? So
Well, that's
Exactly.
exactly right. You gotta believe
No.
it. That's what they always say.
No, a seller never tests their own product.
yeah, that's right.
But you have to believe in it.
Do you?
Believe in what you're selling. Yes. Hey, I'll tell you another good film that just came up in mind. It's a Korean film. It's called Old Boy.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys seen it.
No, I haven't heard of it.
If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a brilliant film. I won't give away too much
They
of
do
the
their
plot,
shit
but
differently, eh?
yeah,
Koreans,
that's another
their
film.
is
Such a
good.
brilliant
And
film.
a couple of-
Well, Parasite
the-
is friggin' amazing.
Parasite's
Oh,
ridiculous, eh? Yep.
The basic premise of the Old Boy is basically this dude who owes someone money ends up getting in prison for a while, and then to punish him further, they end up putting him with his daughter, and they end up falling in love. So it's so insane. But
What?
That's not really. Yeah, it's so insane. It's an insane film.
Wait, say that again.
Yeah.
I was staring
So-
at the screen.
Yeah, I was like half in a different world because like, oh yeah, Nick's talking.
No. So the film's about this. I won't give away the plot. So this guy ends up getting imprisoned for whatever reason. That's the reason you have to find out. And he's in
Keep going,
prison
Just
for
remind me of
X
that
amount of years.
Yeah.
And after the years, he gets released, right? And he thinks he's gonna go on live his life, but they set him up to fall in love with this woman. Who woman ends up being his daughter.
Yeah, cool. I heard you correctly. I don't want to watch this film.
It's so insane.
A daughter,
You have
that's
to
right.
watch it.
eh? It's like
It's
if a
such a-
cousin, if it's a long lost daughter's pretty.
No, but cousins are fine. Like,
I have heard
politicians
the
have been
concept
marrying
of
their
this
cousins
somewhere.
for years.
I think might have been someone talking about it. Yeah, that's
And
pretty.
Nick's
nuts. I don't know.
diary when he was
It's a
15.
hard sell. Have you guys seen Brawl in Cell Block 99 with Vince Vaughn?
I have not. I
Yeah,
dislike
that's-
that man very much.
You do, yeah? This one was
Yes.
very good. He was a obviously in prison, and the role he plays, like, he's kind of has like this dark sense of humor, and he just has like this switch where he goes to a really dark place and puts a beating on people. It's fucking really well done. Eh? It's so different to anything I've ever seen him in. What was that one with? It recently came out on Netflix where she couldn't they had to keep their eyes covered the whole time.
Bird Box.
Bird Box. It's like Bird
Bird
Bath?
Box.
No, that doesn't sound
Bird
right.
Box.
What was your thoughts on that one?
I didn't
thought
see
it
it.
I thought it was good.
I liked
But
it. Yeah, it's not
it-
rewatchable.
It's not
good,
rewatchable.
but yeah, it's a good concept. But it's once you've seen it once.
It's if I put my dickheadness aside, right? I think the concept was real good. I think that could have been most of the film was fairly good, but some of the acting was subpar, and some of the scenes
They spent
were
all the money on
repetitive.
her. That's why.
Yeah, so I think that the film had potential, but it lost a plot because they did quite stereotypical things of like
The black guy that died.
the black guy that dies very quickly of the film, right? So things like that, and then there were a couple of other things that I was like, well, this, that was like you just did it because that's what you do. So, but the film had potential. So I don't know. If you
It's
might
sort of
wanna watch
like
it.
the Walking Dead cross. That sort of clown movie that recently came out where they couldn't speak. What was that one? Like Silence, Make No Noise. I'm terrible.
A Quiet
sometimes.
Place?
A Quiet Place, yeah.
What's that about?
No,
Silence,
it's not.
make no noise.
That's a terrible description of a movie.
That's just like an ominous warning at the front of like a moody teenager's bedroom.
That's a great. It actually was A Quiet Place. So it's like a cross between The Walking Dead and a Quiet Place. That's Bird Box. So there you go. Take from it. as
Practical,
well.
I didn't know this podcast was Margaret and David at the movie.
Hey, what do you know?
It goes down rabbit holes, and we
This
embrace it.
podcast has been everything that I dream about of
Exactly
talking to
right.
people about.
I
so-
want to
Exactly
get
right.
out.
That's another
totally
good
fine.
film. Get Out. That's a good
Yeah,
film.
that's a great film. That's very good.
It's a good film. Get Out. That's one insane film. I mean, they did the
I've
white
seen
people
it.
dirty there. but
Explain
it's
it to
good.
me for a second. Oh yes, that was pretty legit. I watched the trailer on YouTube. I'm like, I definitely have to see this.
Yeah. From my understanding, because it's Jordan Peele from Key and Peele who directed it. And
That's right.
as far as I understand it, he made that film because he was trying to get into a bit more acting in films and television. And I'm pretty sure he was just getting put up for the really shitty stereotype roles just again and again and again, even though he and Keegan-Michael Key are some of the biggest sketch comics in the country. He's just getting this shit role after shit role after shit role where it's stereotypical black guy, and he just went, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to make my own movies with good
Put the money
stories.
together. Yeah,
And
did
he
it.
fucking nailed it.
Now is
He
all of them,
nailed
mate.
it.
Hasn't
It
missed
was
yet.
Such a good.
That was one of those movies. Like it wasn't obviously it's like a thriller, not totally a horror, but the way the characters start to unravel, like that's for me. It does more to me than a lot of horror movies because
Yeah,
like
it's
this
one of those
shit's
ones that fucks with your head.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way. But there was a happy ending. It's like these movies never have like these legit good endings. And
then he made
If
Us,
fucking-
and you're like, oh, no happy endings. Cool, thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
So but that the bitch died. So anyway, it's always a
Well,
good ending.
Now we are at that hour mark. So before we wrap up the podcast, now I'm gonna get
I didn't
into
get to talk about sport, you bastard.
We did talk about sports
briefly. We
So-
get to talk about
we
cricket.
can always do another one. That's right.
Yeah, have
Mate,
me
you
back
wanna-
on.
Just cricket.
Most definitely.
Cricket episode.
Just cricket,
That's-
because the Two for
Just
None
cricket.
podcast didn't run last year, so I'm kind of pent up.
Let's talk
The
about
Ashes
cricket.
are around the corner. Let's get
When's
into
Ashes?
it very soon, eh?
At the end of the year, mate.
Yeah,
Oh, fuck
so
yeah.
a few months.
I'm so excited for the Boxing Day test already.
We can't talk anymore. We're at the hour mark, Matt. You missed your
I know.
chance.
No. I was gonna ask. In life, Alex, you're a few years older than us, right? In life,
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
What's a good advice to live by?
Oh, don't listen to what anyone like me fucking tells you what to do. That's pretty much it. Be kind. Don't be a dick if you don't have to. Stand up for yourself. Do what makes you happy. I don't know.
Yeah. And tell more people you love them,
Yeah.
even if you don't.
Don't let people... Like, a kind of motto that I do kind of live by is try not to leave any interaction with someone where they would leave it worse off than when they first saw you.
That's cool.
That I've
Yeah.
worded that horribly, but
Mm.
No,
that's kind of it.
But-
Don't start an interaction with someone and leave them worse off than when it started.
When it started, yeah.
that's cool.
I like to think about bringing joy into someone's life that maybe they didn't have. And even if they don't like you for it, like it doesn't matter. You attempted to do it, right? So, yeah, that's very good.
I'm gonna use that for my dating life.
I will cut. You don't have
Put that-
one, so like
Put that,
no risk.
put that on your Tinder bio. See how well you go.
That's just very pleading. Don't leave an interaction with someone where they feel worse. Don't
Oh,
bully me.
jeez. Yeah. And he's got like a motivational quote as his display picture, and all his photos are like he's at the mosque, or he's got a photo of his mum, and he's got a suit on.
It's
What
all,
you
it's all
need
live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
is the classic flower background and the quote at the front. That's what you need. There's always
We don't
flowers in
need
the
it. We're
background.
married.
Well, I mean, this isn't. I mean, I need to get married fast, huh? This is just happening.
Well, look,
like,
mate, you might be in the right culture for those fast arrangements. So
I
just,
do not.
and
I have no part of this.
Auntie has said to you multiple times, just say the word. So it could happen. It could happen if you know. Anyway, maybe
Well-
my last point, I could quickly delve just a little bit in. Obviously, we're speaking before about the trauma involved with being a New South Wales fan. I would argue the trauma involved being an Eagles fan far exceeds that. We had a terrible run of wooden spoons, and 2009 season, 2001, we can just go on and on. 2005, actually, 2005 might be the worst because
That was the worst thing because Hindy did his ACL in the first match of the finals, which we won.
Yeah.
But then he was effectively
Yeah.
our best tackler, the best tackler, and the best
Totally.
flopper in the world.
Yeah,
is
the
not
great
in the
man.
team.
Yeah.
And
And
that was
then
brutal.
Cowboys put 30 points on us. And anyway, it was, that 2001 season, actually, I didn't know until I was researching it because this year in the NRL, Nick, I've never seen a season where the top 8 and the bottom 8 is so far separated. There's been that many 40 and 50 plus, or big margin games. It's the level is so far separated.
Pretty sure we
So I
got
was
the points record that year.
Yeah, so 2001 we got it. So we had the most points, and Penrith were about 150 or so away.
Yeah.
In the for and against us, the differential, because they've been doing really well. So that could go. But compared to maybe the last, let's call it since 2016, when we sort of had our most recent string-ish of good form. Except
Except for that wooden spoon in 2018.
Except for 2018, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. I was trying
we
to
don't
think it
talk
was
about that.
16 or 17. Well, that's right. We've had back-to-back, we've had a few fourth placings where we've lost both games in the finals, but regardless, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, haven't won a final since, 2009, 2010?
Yeah, so that's the one as I was thinking of as well. In 2014, we did. Anyway, so this year, what are your thoughts? I feel a little... I don't know. We had a couple of bad losses to Manly and Rabbitohs. It turns out those two teams, when on their day, particularly Manly, with Travojevic, just a freak of nature.
Yeah,
He could do that to
if
any
Tommy's
side.
in your squad, bloody God, help the other team.
Right. But the last couple of weeks, there was a lot of errors against the Penrith Panthers, but I feel like there was a lot of good to take out of as well. There was shifts in momentum and times where I've seen the team give up and let a few easy tries in, our defence kind of kept us in that match. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
The thing is, I'm always very nervous, and I'm always looking for where Wonga Blake is standing on the field.
He's the old Takarangi.
Yeah, if he's 25 meters in, it's fuck. You can feel I'm always very, very nervous. But Opacek is a really good defensive centre. We've got some good wingers coming through. So, like with Hayes, Dunster, and whatnot, if it's not this year, and it's unlikely that it will be, but I think we're edging there to a really, really good squad, and we've got Papali'i on cheap for another 12 months, so that's good.
What an absolute buy of the year, hasn't he?
220,000 he's on. He's like just above a minimum contract.
Wow. He's the second coming of Fui Moi Moi. He's Fui 2.0, that bloke.
He's phenomenal. And Bryce Cartwright is going to tidy his game up. And I think he's a really good purchase.
From a string of injuries. He's a guy that at the top of his form for that brief period of time. He was, Australia quality. So if he gets back to there.
Every time I see him do a kick, I want to kill him. Except for that one time that he kicked for Moses to score. I'm like, you get away with that one.
Pretty good. Yeah, you get one. But his ball handling, even Junior Paulo, big number 10, he's 130 kilos and he's got
we've got family friends who are, unfortunately for them, Tigers fans.
Oh.
And we go to
that's tough.
The Bankwest. We go to the Easter Monday game is always Para Tigers.
I haven't been to Bankwest yet.
It's phenomenal. I was at the first night. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You get vertigo in the stands because it's like a cauldron.
It's like Rod Laver Arena, My dad and brother absolutely rave about it.
It's beautiful. But we go there every year, and the link-up play from Reid Marnie does about a 10-metre pass to Junior Paulo, who does about a 15-metre pass to Moses, and all of a sudden the ball's been on the right side of the field and they're other side of the post, and it just goes Moses, Gutho, Sevo, try. Again and again and again, and you've got your prop, your big fridge-sized front rower throwing these 20-metre bullets out to the left. Absolutely phenomenal. How he didn't start each Origin game as the number 10 does my head in.
Totally. He wanted to use him as that sort of impact player.
I don't give a shit.
He's got 80-minute cardio. That's the thing about him. He's not one of these big.
He never
he's a freak.
But his first stint, and he went down to Canberra because he had to leave Parramatta because he was getting in with the wrong crowd and da. So he went to Canberra for a couple of years.
Yeah, I remember that. That's right.
Then came back and it's just fit and fast. And heavy and strong and bald. He's bloody. Oh, I love him.
Hopefully, he hasn't been hanging out with Michael Jennings, but
well, maybe that's where he gets all his energy from.
Yeah, well, that's right. And he's got this unbelievable
Michael Jennings is
handling.
From Penrith, so just
that's exactly right. And in saying that, I'm my opinion for the most part, and in most sports on performance enhancing drugs has changed because of just the amount of professional athletes I've heard say that the amount of people that are on it that are just have enough money to consistently come up with new ways to take these drugs and hide these drugs is unbelievable. So I don't feel like it's as big of an issue like a lot of people think of one or two. And maybe in Australia it's a different story because we don't quite have the same amount of money. But I look at a Michael Jennings kind of guy. He was in his mid-30s. He made a bit of a career resurgence. He was nearly as fast and as strong as he'd ever been. He had a great year last year.
Close.
And when I found out, it didn't surprise me at all. You don't regrow more muscle than you've ever had in your 30s, after 15 years.
I thought he got busted for having cocaine.
No, it was steroids.
Because I was going to say, I've done cocaine. It just enhances zero performances
for about 15 minutes.
No.
It was steroids, bro. Yeah,
it does make you feel like your performance has been enhanced.
Oh no, I'm self-aware.
You're not talking about coke, Dick, are you? No, just.
I wasn't, but while we're here.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, that's
good.
I'm so glad that you're an Eels fan. That's always something we can go to the well with. So,
I feel like Anik has been quiet for about the last 10 minutes. And
he tried hard. Yeah, he tried hard.
It's because I stop at footy. It's like I like to, I'm one of those ones with trophy. I'm like, I have a trophy to say I go for Eels, but really I don't watch it.
You're from Sydney, West, blah, 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 and you don't go for...
I don't really watch it,
As a young fella, I was a really big NFL fan. I followed the NBA, baseball, golf. I watched everything. And now I've since really I've become a fan of MMA and the UFC in particular, that takes up so much time because there's a 12-month sport.
And it's expensive. Now.
Yeah. And so I've got a little bit of cricket. Even that, the last couple of years since what happened with Steve Smith and those boys, I sort of got turned off it a bit. I also was playing and watching it 12 months year round. I watched every game of the BBL in 2016. So I kind of went really hardcore. So I kind of need some time away. but since then it's really just league and MMA and boxing. So
I'll
sometimes
take
it's good.
anything other than golf and baseball.
Yeah,
Anything other than those two, get it in me.
you can do it. I've recently gotten back in a little bit of baseball, just watching YouTube, so not actually watching games. There's a Japanese fella named Shohei Ohtani. He plays for the LA Angels.
Mm-hmm.
He pitches plus 100 miles per hour, bombs home runs. So he made the All-Star team as a batter and a pitcher. And he's fucking 6'5", and he's lightning quick, and he's Japanese. It's just great.
That's phenomenal. They love American sports, and they've produced some of the best at those sports. They just went, fuck you, we're going to do this. Thank you very much.
That's right.
Baseball's been big in Japan
US
for a very long time.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, apart from the US, America's pastime, like baseball, its second home is
Japan.
Is definitely Japan.
Yeah.
It's just like cricket. India's the big one, and then there's England, and then there's here, like, in terms of,
it's
like,
probably the other way
so
around. Is that because it's an English game, and then they just kind of took it to themselves and went, haha. And then the Indians grew to love it eventually.
Yeah, like currently anyway. Because 90% of the world's revenue comes out of India, doesn't it? I've heard that statistic floating around. I've done absolutely no research on
or
it.
Cricket?
Of cricket's revenue.
I was going to say, they're doing well for global income.
That's why all the COVID cases are coming out of there. They're trying to beat the real powerhouse. No, 90% of the
that
ICCs.
would make sense.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
This is a talk for another day, I think. But the BCCI has almost infinite power with cricket. But
influence, DRS. I mean, that would come to countries, and
I am not opening that can of worms because we will be here all night.
Totally.
BCCI, is that Bangladesh Cricket Association?
Oh, yeah, definitely, bro. It definitely is. No, it's Blacktown, mate. The BCDCA, brother.
BCIC, Bangladesh International Cricket Association.
That's it. All right. Let's. Any last thoughts there, Anik, mate? It's been so good to have you on there, Alex.
It's been good. It's been just a good chat. This has been a good mates podcast.
I'm pretty sure this is like a really bad podcast from any real metric about what you're talking about, but I've had a lot of fun.
Well, that's what I mean. So
what do you mean by that?
Oh, because we have no focus.
Well, the best.
Those are the best ones. Yeah.
Those are the best ones, right?
It's just like the girls with fat asses on Instagram. They provide no nutritional value to you, but they get the most likes.
Nutritional
the world.
I plead the fifth.
Well done. Good stuff. That's a good way to end it.
No, this has been good. I think there's another podcast in there about cricket. I think that's just focus on cricket.
Plenty more.
Definitely there. Plenty
and
more.
We could go to more serious topics as well, which we did touch on here and there.
But the
world we live in at the moment, we need a bit more laughter, I feel like.
I still think there was something there about time and its existence, but I guess that's you
keep hitting that fucking gong, Matt, and I'm not going to go into it with you again. You've been told, all right?
And it'd have to be an in-person.
Yes, I can smack you myself.
Yeah, that's right. So we can just render him unconscious and continue talking footy. All right. Thank you so much, Father. We definitely will have you back on. Really appreciate your listenership and obviously you being a part of the podcast today. You're an exceptional energy, and I look forward to getting to know you more and more, brother.
Yes, same. It was wonderful to meet you for the first time in Anik's old home crew, and thanks for having me on. Loved it.
Beautiful. Anik, as always, mate, you are an absolute gem of a human being. I love you very much. And let's continue the trend. You did such a good job last week. Wrap it up for us, baby.
Oh, woohoo! Okay, to wrap up. All right. Thank you for listening on this beautiful Wednesday evening. If you're listening in the morning, good morning. If you're listening at night, good night. And if you're listening in the afternoon, good afternoon. Hope you have a wonderful day. This has been the episode 27 of the Clever Dummies Podcast. You can check us out on the Clever Dummies Podcast website, thecleverdummies.podcast.com, or you can look us up on Spotify. Look up Clever Dummies Podcast on Apple Podcasts and all of the above socials. Thank you for listening. This has been Anik, Lachlan, and Alex. Clever Dummies Podcast. Good night.
Peace out.
Bye.